Welcome back to another week, another Sinister. I'm BOZE. I am here with you on Fridays. Generally so. Sometimes our production schedule gets a little messed up because I am mentally ill, but it happens and ultimately it comes out. You guys know I handpick these cases. I dive really, really deep into them. They have concepts and things in them that I find interesting and I want to dive into. I'm not just here to read you a timeline of events. I tried to get in a little bit deeper. So if you like my storytelling, if you're interested in the little tidbits that I add in, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Rate it 5 stars on Spotify if you want to. Now, I'm taking my cozy BOZE blanket and we are going straight in. Vegas Bray grew up in a military community in San Diego. Her dad wasn't really involved. She was mostly just raised by her mother. But when she was 12 years old, her mother abandoned her. Vegas would also later go on to reveal that at 12 years old, she was also sexually assaulted. And when she told a teacher, the teacher didn't do anything. So often, children that are abused don't speak up, they don't know how, they don't know who to go to, and they're scared. So Vegas actually speaking up to an adult about this and identifying who the person was such a cry for help, also incredibly brave. This person essentially told her about the worst thing that ever happened to her. Didn't really happen, and I can't help you. Vegas may have never tried to ask for help again. She doesn't have a mother or father figure in her life, and she's really just left alone with this rage, this violation, this betrayal, and it kind of just sits in her. Now, despite all of this, Vegas actually did really, really well in school. People said that she was very sweet. She was always on top of her schoolwork. She was generally a nice girl. And I could kind of see this. Like, as an adult, she kind of looks like a badass. She's always got her hair done. She's got, tattoos. But when I actually watched her interrogation, she is kind of sweet, kind of, shy, just seems kind almost. Vegas's friends from high school said that she was pretty, she was good looking, but they also described her as a good girl. Vegas wasn't just a cool girl. They also said oh yeah, she's like a goody goody. I'm gonna insert a little tidbit about my own experience that might resonate with some of you guys and then also possibly connect to this story. But when people lose all of the structures in their life, their home, their mom, their dad, they feel like they're just floating and suspended in space. It can feel very chaotic, very confusing. So they sometimes will really cling to the structures that are built for them that seem solid. So for example, for me, when I was a kid and I felt scared and alone, I really liked to follow the rules because it was the only structure that I had. So sometimes I think that when people have some kind of extreme trauma like this, they can really excel in, school and other things because they're like, okay, I like this. This gives me a place. This gives me a home. This gives me rules that I know to follow. And she really was an all-star student. So Vegas thrives in school and she thrives in these structures. But when she graduated in 2007, college wasn't exactly in the cards. So she did what a lot of her hometown people did, and she went to go work at the naval base. This makes sense. It's what a lot of local residents did, but also this is kind of where she came from. She grew up on the base, and also, once again, she knows those structures. There's a sense of home in the military for her. So she ends up getting a job as a machinist. Her job was kind of doing some of the operating and then kind of just setting up the parts for different things. But Vegas is getting older. And she's a pretty girl. Unfortunately, Vegas wasn't really good at this job. She was a little flirty to begin with, and she always got guys back in high school. She would always kind of flirt by cutting guys' hairs and not really dating, just kind of whatever. And now that she's working on the military base, there's a lot of guys around. So Vegas is not really doing her job well. And then also scoping out the co-workers, seeing what's going on. And she kind of starts to get away from that good girl attitude. There was also a guy that worked there and his name was Victor Saucedo. Vegas and Victor had kind of met a little bit, but they didn't know each other. They didn't work nearby. She just probably thought he was a pretty good looking guy. They talked a couple times and that was that. But in 2010, she applies for an early discharge because she's ready to leave the military. and she's out. After she leaves the military, she doesn't really have any skills that translate well outside of the military, and so she ends up getting a job at a place called Little Darlings. This Little Darlings was in Lemon Grove, California, but some of you guys might know it as a popular strip club as well in Las Vegas. It's a chain. Vegas's job as a cocktail waitress is she's actually basically a liaison between the guys that come in and the dancers. I'm just telling you guys this right now. Sometimes the dancers will really befriend certain cocktail waitresses or sometimes slip them a little bit of money because when the girls come over to take the order, they kind of chat with the guys, they talk a little, they want to get a tip too, but sometimes they might suggest a girl or say, oh, meet my friend so-and-so. So she's not dancing, but as a cocktail waitress, she's very involved in talking with these guys and, making them like her. One day when she's working, this guy comes in. He's tall, about 6'1". He's kind of tan. He's got a shaved head. He's confident. He's attractive in the face. And Vegas remembers him from the naval base. It's Victor Saucedo. Lumi. One of my favorites. Listen, summer is not the only time that we get body odor. Whether it's hot or cold outside, you're gonna sweat unless you're protected. And Lumi gives you protection for up to 72 hours. Isn't that so cool? You ever have one of those days where you leave the house and you realize, oh my God, I forgot to put deodorant on. Well, did you use Lumi? And did you put it on yesterday? Well, guess what, girl? You're good. There's, of course, the regular clean scents, but now you can also choose from a couple of fall scents like the pumpkin spice latte, freshly picked apples, fresh coffee, and cinnamon. Very fall-like for you. Lumi's great. It was created by an OBGYN that just wanted a product that did more for people. And I mean, the testimonies are insane. It's got thousands and thousands and thousands of reviews for people that love Lumi. And if you want to smell great, feel confident and protected, give it a shot. I like Lumi because they're ingredient conscious, but it actually also works. So if you guys want to try it out, you can actually start with the Lumi starter pack and there's a little discount on top of it. The Lumi starter pack comes with solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice, like a mini body wash or deodorant wipes, whatever you want it to be. You get to pick. And there's free shipping. So listeners can get 15% off of all Lumi products. And then you can combine the 15% off with the already discounted starter pack that I just told you about. And that equals like over 40% off of your starter pack. So go to lumideodorant.com and use the code SINISTER. That's LUMEDEODORANT.com. SINISTER. Girls loved Victor. I mean, he was pretty. And he lived in a bachelor pad on base with a couple of his Navy friends. And it was just always time to party. Hang out with guys, hang out with the girls. Like, that was just his life. Victor's friends said that he was a guy's guy. He was that, a girl being a girl's girl. He was a guy's guy. He was for the bros, okay? And there were a lot of women that were vying for his attention, like girls that he was hooking up with, and they were coming over, and Victor would be like, all right, you can go now. That was just, the MO. He was kind of a player. One of his friends said, Victor dated a lot of people. It was hard for somebody to keep his attention for too long. He would just get bored and move on. Now, on this day, Victor comes into the strip club and he is looking for a new girl to talk to. And that is when Vegas Bray sees him again. Now, remember, her job is to kind of liaison, but here he is again. It's the guy from the Navy base. And ooh, he's just as hot as she remembers. She goes over, starts chatting with them, and they kind of really hit it off. Like, he liked her. She liked him. But also, Victor likes a lot of girls. But right now, Vegas feels special, and she wants to keep that feeling. After this meeting, they were off to the races. They started hanging out all the time. Them hanging out was actually pretty out of character for Victor. Normally, he invites a girl over. Maybe she comes over super late at night, 9, 10, 11 o'clock, and then she's gone before the sun is even up. Most of the time, his roommates didn't get to meet many of these women, but Vegas was around. She and Victor really got along because they had this sarcastic, dark humor, and they could really banter and bullshit with each other, and he genuinely enjoyed her company. And not only that, I mean, romantically, they really hit it off too. She was extremely attracted to Victor, and he thought she was beautiful. He thought she had a beautiful curvy body, beautiful face, just like all the right places. He could not get enough of Vegas. And then adding the personality on top, and then also add in Vegas's determination for this guy to like her, I mean, he's actually over the moon and she's keeping his attention. A friend of Vegas's actually said later, quote, they were always together. So I'm like, okay, this guy could really be the one for her. I mean, Victor's friends saw them getting along like crazy, like no other girl. They saw Victor happy. And then also Vegas's friends were seeing how close they were. Like people were like, wow, they're like an item. Then Victor does something crazy, something he has never done before. In March of 2011, he officially made Vegas Bray his girlfriend. Victor don't ask no girls out. Victor is single. Victor don't want to be with nobody. This was like very shocking to people, even though they were very close and she was coming around and hanging out with all their friends. Like he made it official, okay? And now they're together. I feel like there were some really beautiful parts of Victor and Vegas's relationship, but of course, there were also some really, really dark parts. Vegas was actually unable to control her jealousy. And not only did Victor have women hanging over him all the time, he also had a kid with his ex. It was a woman named Dominique. And who knows what all was going on behind the scenes leading up until March. But there's one day that they're at a cookout. Vegas, Victor, his brother's there, a bunch of other friends. And this is the moment where Victor's brother really sees it. They're sitting around the barbecue, having a good time, and then Dominique calls Victor. I mean, they have a kid together, so of course, she's got to call him sometimes to do things, and Victor was really, really involved in his child's life. In fact, at one point, he wanted to move back to Chicago, but he stayed in San Diego because he couldn't be away from his kid. Dominique calls him up, blah, 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 talking about their son. They don't have like a great relationship or anything. They're just talking about the kids. And afterwards, he gets off the phone, and Vegas is stewing. I mean, they said it was like steam was coming out of her ears, and she's quiet for a minute, and then she just explodes into just a violent, jealous rage. And everybody saw it. It was so intense that it was almost kind of shocking, like, whoa, is she really gonna let us see her like this right now? I mean, she probably didn't want to, but Vegas couldn't control it. She could not control her anger. She could not control her jealousy. When she got triggered by something, it didn't matter who was around. It didn't matter what the situation was. She just absolutely snapped. This jealousy did not just involve his ex, Dominique. It involved every woman. Now, remember I told you that Victor always had women that were throwing themselves at him, always hanging around. Well, he's got a few flings from the past that still like to check in. Vegas loses her mind. He's got women that, see him at the gym or see him on the street and give him a look. Vegas loses her mind. Maybe there's a secretary at work that says, "Oh, Victor, you look nice today." Vegas loses her mind. She could not handle how many women were interested in Victor. I find this part really, really interesting because she is a person that is extremely jealous and extremely intimidated by any and every woman that approaches her man. Yet she chose a guy that had an ex-baby mama and also a guy that had a lot of girlfriends. I've kind of seen this before where sometimes girls like guys that get a lot of attention from women because unbeknownst to them, they want to beat out the other competition and prove that they are worth it. I don't know if this was exactly the case with Vegas, but if somebody sees Victor and sees, oh my God, all these girls want him. Well, if I can be the one, then I must be special. I must be something. I don't have my own self-esteem to draw from, so I need to beat the competition that I've created so that I can get to the top and feel like I'm the one. Now, it's interesting because she tried so hard to get Victor to date her, and finally he is. He has committed to her, and there's no record of him cheating. Quite frankly, with the stuff we're about to get into, I think he was scared to cheat, okay? I think he was terrified to cheat on Vegas. So by all accounts, he was loyal to her, not talking to anybody. There's no, records of her finding something on his phone or anything. She just couldn't even handle a woman looking at him, yet this is the man that she chose. Vegas is setting herself up for a world of pain, jealousy, and insecurity. Jealousy is a huge theme in this case, and I want to kind of add a little definition to two words. There's jealousy, and then there's envy. Envy is usually when somebody has something that you want. It could be a material possession, it could be a job, it could be, something like that. They have a thing that you want. Jealousy is when you have a relationship with another person and you believe that a third party is threatening your connection with that other person. So that is the difference between envy and jealousy. And in the case of jealousy here for Vegas, she believes that every woman is a threat to her bond with Victor. As a person that has dated attractive guys that, women come on to, and I've been jealous before, I get it. There's an element of disrespect from the person that's hitting on them, an element of disrespect for your partner from engaging in it. But then also for me, there's a lot of insecurity there when I feel jealousy because I'm like, oh my God, am I good enough? Are they better than me? Can they take you from me? Like, that is what jealousy feels like. It's like a hit to the ego sometimes. And it's like, stop. Wait, this hurts too much. Am I good enough? Vegas has this tendency to kind of split between the way that she wants to be presented and then this anger and rage and jealousy and insecurity that she can't control. So keeping that in mind, throughout the relationship, when Vegas was online, being her most present self, not triggered, conscious, she was really sweet. She was really doting with Victor. They had a very intense romantic and sexual connection. They got along well, friends and family mingled well. But then sometimes there was this insane dark side from her. They would come out of nowhere. And it wasn't all the time. It was maybe only 10% of the relationship or 15%. But these moments were really scary for Victor. And then she would just switch back to normal. What I believe she doesn't know at this point is she is simply getting triggered. And the place in her mind that she is going back to is a child that is scared, lost, afraid to be abandoned, upset, and they have this rageful protector that is going to keep them from feeling like they are not good enough. Even though they're together, this is not good enough for Vegas. I mean, they come from the military. She wants to get married. She wants more commitment, more dedication, and more time for Victor. And the more she pulls in, and the more she gets closer, and the more she has these crazy outbursts, the more he kind of pulls back. But Victor stays in this cycle for quite a while. As he starts to pull back, this could have triggered some type of potential abandonment to Vegas. And when she senses it, she kind of ramps up. And so she starts sending him these rageful texts. Rather than her just kind of having the outburst in person and then switching back to, no, everything's fine now. I'm okay. I'm okay. And I love you. And I love you. Now she's texting him this stuff. Like, we're going from 10% to like 20%. 30% of the craziness. And she'll send him these insane messages, spamming him. And then, let me just see you. What the fuck is wrong with you? And then she starts switching to direct threats. Not just, I'm coming over there. I'm gonna do this. She starts to tell Victor that she's gonna fucking kill him. Now, Vegas stands at 5'2", and like I said, on the outside, she does kind of have a sweet demeanor. Victor is a guy in the Navy that works out all the time, and he's 6'1". When she starts to say, I'm gonna kill you, he tells people, but everyone just kind of laughs it off. I think at this point, Victor was starting to get scared because it all culminates into one night where Vegas went from sending rageful texts and showing up at his house to pulling a gun out on him. While she laid on his chest one night, she pulled out a gun and demanded her ultimatum. Whatever it was, Victor was not going for it. He broke up with her the next day and said, please, Vegas, this isn't working out. I don't want to see you anymore. It might be wild to you that it got to the point of her doing this back and forth and screaming at him, like threatening him, pulling out a gun on him. Like, how did we get to this point? How could somebody withstand all of that and not walk away? A lot of times if we come from chaotic homes and we have a parent that is not taking good care of us and our emotions, but they say, but I love you. we now take that as, okay, this is love. Somebody abusing me is love. Somebody manipulating me is love. Somebody neglecting me is love. Somebody creating intense emotions in me is love. So for Victor, he's getting these highs and lows that are extremely intense. This, wow, I love this woman, to wow, I'm terrified of this woman. And if it all gets wrapped up in a bundle of intensity, and he came from a chaotic home that taught you, hey, intensity and abuse is love, he's going to stick it out because this is what his brain believes is love. And also, I wouldn't be surprised if Vegas also believes that chaos, intensity, abuse, and everything is also love, because that's the environment that she came from. So I don't have much information about Victor's home life, but I just wanted to provide a little context for you guys listening. Like, why didn't he leave? Why didn't he go? Well, he thought he loved her. And even though he was scared of her, she created a lot of strong emotions in him, whether they were positive or negative, and he just couldn't get away from it. On top of that, this woman is starting to scare him, and he doesn't want to make her upset. Of course, after he breaks up with her, for his own safety, things start to take a darker turn. It starts with Victor coming out from the mall and going to his car and seeing that his entire car has been keyed up. There's nobody around. It's broad daylight. He knows this was Vegas, but he can't prove it. Then on April 18th, Victor actually makes a 911 call because Vegas came to his house at 1 o'clock in the morning and she smeared peanut butter on his front door and windows. We don't have a transcript of the call, but we do know that on this call, Victor must have given enough information to let the sheriff's deputy know, hey, I know it's just peanut butter, but let me key you in on everything that's been happening leading up to this. Like, this chick is crazy. So they suggested to him, well, I mean, if nobody's there and you don't see anybody around, we can't prove that she did it. But if you have enough evidence, we suggest you get a restraining order. And they hung up. And that was it. It didn't stop there, though. Victor and Vegas were actually still slightly in contact around this time. And when she didn't get what she wanted through messages, she would show up and do more. Next, she started showing up to his house and throwing eggs on his car, on his windows, at his house. Then she starts to escalate. This time, she's no longer keying cars and throwing eggs everywhere. She slashes all of his tires. Victor is... Honestly, I believe the man was terrified at this point, but what is he gonna say? Like, he's already told his friends what's going on, and they're like, whoa, she's nuts, this is bad. But nobody really thinks that anything is gonna happen to Victor. But he's still nervous, and he starts to take extra precautions. Sometimes Victor didn't even want to take his car anywhere because he was afraid she would follow him, she might key it again, she would know what he was doing. So sometimes he would ask to borrow a friend's car just so he could feel safer. But then Vegas starts showing up to his house and just sitting outside. She would just sit on the curb and stare at his house. This was not just one time. Vegas probably knew that this was scary, so she started showing up more, just sitting outside of his house and watching, and sometimes circling, and then sometimes just sitting on the lawn, and then back on the curb. And everyone was seeing this. Remember, when Vegas is triggered, she doesn't care. She does not care who is seeing her bad behavior, who is seeing her just go completely off the rails. She wants what she wants, and she's gonna let you know how she feels. And so she starts showing up at his house, and eventually he's like, okay, I need to call the police again. And Victor doesn't want to keep calling the police because he's probably embarrassed. He feels like he's a big guy. He shouldn't be scared. Here's this little girl walking around his house. Okay, she's throwing eggs, but this is escalating. I mean, the moment that she cut his tires, that means she walked up to his house with a knife, okay? So he calls the police again, and they basically tell him the same thing. Well, we can't prove the other stuff that she did. And if she's just sitting outside of the house and she's on the curb across the street, she's not hurting anybody, so we can't really do anything. And he hangs up, and that's that. As I'm telling this, I cannot imagine how scared Victor was and how he felt like nobody would help him. He's a big guy, so he's got to do it himself. Well, things kind of change one day where he walks outside and Vegas is there again. After this time that Vegas showed up at the house, he decided that it was time to move. But he stays in his apartment complex. Maybe it was for financial reasons. Maybe it was because his son was nearby and it was easy or something. But he gets out of there and he moves to a different one a little bit further away. So even though he's still in the same complex and his car is there, he's feeling a little bit of safety because finally Vegas is not sitting right outside of the apartment. Like, she might be in the complex like a couple streets down, but like it would be terrifying knowing that your ex that you dated for like a month is just sitting outside waiting for you to come out. So he finally gets a little bit of peace until one day a jar of jam comes crashing through his window. It is a symbol from Vegas that she knows where he is. She was full on stalking him at this point. Full on. Asking people in the neighborhood if they had seen Victor, if they knew anything, trying to talk to his roommates, looking for his car, watching where he was just to see if she could find him. And eventually, she must have found him walking into the new apartment. And that's when she threw the jar of jelly through. I think the other thing that is like so scary about this is like that was her way of sending a message. Like, she's not calling him. She's not knocking on the door. She's not sending a text. Like, just him being peaceful in his apartment for once. And then this jar comes crashing through is a fucking moment, man. And this is when he calls the police again. And guess what? It's the same old story. Maybe you should file a restraining order, sir. Best of luck to you. At this point, he doesn't know what to do, and he considers moving back to Chicago. But like I told you guys earlier, he didn't because he wants to stay close to his son. I totally get that because being near your kid is so important. And there's also this feeling like, okay, I'm not going to let this lady scare me away with eggs and keys and jars of jam. Like, no, I need to be here for my son. I'm not going to be a deadbeat dad. Like, I'm sticking around and I'm going to figure out what to do with this chick, no matter what. The issues persisted with them for weeks, but you know what? Some old habits die hard because in between Vegas's threats and rage and just general scariness, that sweetness would come through sometimes. That I miss you, what are we doing? I love you. Why are we doing this? Hey, let's just get breakfast like old times. Let's just do this. Hey, let me just come over. And Victor eventually gives in. There's a myriad of reasons why this could be. Maybe he had a sweet spot for her. Maybe he thought, okay, if I make peace with her and I give her the bare minimum, she'll move on. Or maybe he was so scared and so lonely and so abused by this woman that he got a little Stockholm syndrome from his abuser. I'm not sure. But whatever the case is, one evening she convinces him, hey, let's just go out for drinks and talk this all over. They end up having a couple of drinks and it is just right back to the same old energy. And they start hooking up again. Listen, if you are a cat owner, you know that you have to get in there every day and get that litter box clean. Otherwise, it's not going to smell great. What if I told you I haven't scooped cat litter in almost 2 years because I have a litter robot? A litter robot is the solution to all of your litter box problems. I genuinely love it. Like, you know, when you have a cat, you're scooping poop every day. You don't think anything of it. It's just a part of your routine. But then when you don't have to do it anymore, it's like the world just opens up. Listen, I'll tell you right now, the litter robot, it is an investment. But geez, it is one of my favorite things that I have ever purchased. It's a self-cleaning litter box for your cats that works seamlessly. One of my favorite things about it is I got one and then my friend got one just a few weeks ago. And for both of us, our cats started using it immediately. That was the thing that I was most nervous about. Am I going to have to train Stanley on it? Is it going to be difficult? Nope. I just used the same exact litter that I used in his previous cat litter box and he got into his litter robot on day one. I remember like it was yesterday. That is his litter box. He uses it all the time. It is incredibly safe. There's just kind of like a weight thing in there that detects how much litter is in there and if there's an animal in there and if there's an animal or anything inside, it will not rotate for a set number of minutes. So your cats are always safe. Also, the way it's designed, it helps you use a little bit less litter. I swear I've probably bought like 2, 3, or 4 less like litter things this year alone. It's a product that makes my life easier, and it's one that I really recommend. I understand there's an investment, but if you're interested, don't hesitate to check it out. Right now, Whisker is offering $75 off of litter robot bundles. And as a special offer to our listeners, you can get an additional $50 off when you go to stopscooping.com/sinister. Yes, use the link and get an additional $50 off. That's stopscooping.com/sinister. The key in the car, the peanut butter, all of that started happening around April. At this point in the timeline, we are in August. So just kind of through the summer, she's showing up, harassing him, sending all these crazy messages. And really what Vegas wants is she wants to get back with him. She wants to be back together with him. You got to think about when he agrees to get these drinks with her, in Vegas's mind, she's like, this is my chance. This is my chance to get him back. Like, bro, you know, she was tiny dress, makeup on, lotioned up, like fully shaved. She was like, this is my chance. So what I'm trying to say about this was she was laying it on thick. Like through all of this harassment, all she wants is Victor back. This is a goal-oriented and targeted woman, and Victor is the prey. He has now been scared into submission, pushed out of his own home, and now he's being charmed and seduced by his abuser. And also in this story, I get it that Victor was a player and he was seeing all these women. A lot of us have been in the situation where a guy has screwed us over like this. But if you were in Vegas's situation and Victor didn't want to settle down and he broke up with you and he's seen all these girls, wouldn't you just fucking leave? Like, wouldn't you leave? Let me ask you this. Even if you resonate with some of her anger and jealousy and all of that, at what point would you have stopped? Reminding you, because I know some of you do not have an empathy cap right now, but for those of you that have been in a similar situation as Vegas and you do, let's start to turn it down a little bit here. So they rekindle. They're back on. And Vegas decides, perfect. And she goes to his apartment complex and talks to the landlord and says, I would like to get an apartment here. Yes, that's right. After a night of drinks and maybe a hookup or two, she goes to the apartment complex that he lives in and tries to get a lease. And hold on, I'm so sorry, y'all. It's about to get crazier. The man has full-blown Stockholm syndrome because when she goes to him and says, hey, I'm going to get a lease in your apartment complex since you won't let me move in with you, Victor says, okay. And she says, also, I need a little bit of help with it. And he's like, okay, what do you need? And she's like, I need you to co-sign for it. And he does. Dude, even if Victor is a person that is just being sucked into an abusive relationship through his past, you can't convince me there's not a little bit of Stockholm syndrome in here. I really hope that you guys are seeing here, like, Victor is a fucking victim, dude. He's a victim. I mean, of course, because he's the main person that we're focusing on in this story. But like through all of this man is being controlled by fear, sex, manipulation, and honestly, her just constantly pestering him. She won't give it up. Like, as I'm going through this, I'm scared of Vegas. So he agreed to be the co-signer on her apartment. But it's not time for her to move in yet. They're still hanging out. And Vegas wants to hang out all the time. She wants to be there every single night if she can be. And every single night, she asks. So there's one night where she comes over, she spends the night, they hook up. It's a magical night for her because remember, Victor is all she wants. This person is her sun, her moon, her stars. Her entire world revolves on whether Victor likes her or not that day. So she begins to try to get this lease going around late August, early September. And they kept this thing going for about a month. Like, Vegas has her foot in the door and she's really playing nice. So when Vegas is playing nice for extended periods of time, she's keeping that rage down because she has it. They can't go out in public. If a woman looks at Victor, she goes off the deep end and embarrasses herself and him. So every night it's a constant game of, is Victor going to let me come over tonight? Is he going to hang out with me? Are we going to do something? Da, da, da. All leading up to October 2012. When one night Victor says, yeah, come on over. I mean, this is the only way that he can stop her from stalking him. And then the next morning they wake up and she says, hey, babe, let's go get some breakfast. Let's go, let's go eat together. And he says, nah, I don't want to do that. I got stuff to do. How long are you staying? And she's like, you can have sex with me, but you can't eat with me. And Victor is just not having it. He's just, hey, we had our night together. Like, let's move it along now. And this really upsets her. Now, it's unknown if Vegas did her usual and went to rage texting him and threatening him after she left the house. But what I do know is she went home and she thought about it for a while. And she thought about it while staring at her .38 caliber gun. The only thing that happened this morning was he said he didn't want to get breakfast with her. But for her, she's like, well, are we together? Are we going to be together? You should want to get breakfast with me if I'm your girl, right? So now she's feeling like she's just a hookup and like he's pulling away and she can feel it and it scares her. She ends up leaving him this frantic voicemail where she's like, please don't leave me. Please don't leave me. Please, 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 please. And Victor was not answering, not texting back, like rightfully so. Sometimes, even if you're okay with somebody, you don't want to honor this type of behavior, And so he just says, yo, leave me alone. This lack of communication fuels this fear of abandonment she has, and she cannot handle it. So now, enraged and feeling ignored, she shows up at his house, and she decides that she will not be ignored anymore, and she is going to take matters into her own hands. He opens the door, and Vegas is only at Victor's house for about 20 or 30 minutes. And then she ends up picking up the phone and calling her brother, Santiago. And she says to him, panicking, crying, she says, I love you. I love you so much. I'm so sorry. She talks about taking her own life, and she really sounds out of control. And then she says something very disturbing to Santiago. She says, I think I shot Victor. Her brother, who really cares about her, is also panicking now, and he tells her, please, please, please call 911. He talks her off of the ledge about harming herself, and he says, Vegas, I need you to call 911. Call them, and I'm here for you. So she does. She calls 911. She says on the phone to the operator that she needs someone over right away. She said, Miss, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm not sure what happened, but he's not moving. He's not breathing. And then she also tells authorities that there's a gun next to him. So the police arrive on the scene. But when they arrive to the scene, they're expecting maybe a gunshot, but it is a far more gruesome scene. Victor had been shot 9 times. Victor had 1 shot to his abdomen, 1 to his lower chest, 1 to his left shoulder, 1 to his right hand, 1 to his back, 1 in his right chest, 1 in his shoulder. And then he had 3 hollow point bullets in his face. These are the type of bullets that expand on impact when they enter the body. And while the police are seeing this man who has been riddled with bullet holes and they're not saying anything and just kind of examining the crime scene, Vegas is off to the side saying, I just got here. He must have shot himself. I don't know what happened. I'm so upset. You, me, and the cops know Victor did not shoot himself 9 times. It's a ridiculous story. So they take her in. She voluntarily went to the police station, but, she starts talking and concocts this weird story. She says that she blacked out and she doesn't know what happened. Some details that she gave the investigators were very interesting. One, she says in this interrogation that Victor had actually unfriended her on Facebook this time. So that's probably why we got the voicemail, we got the panic, like it was about to be done. She also told the investigators that when she went to Victor's house, she blacked out and the only thing she remembers are her ears ringing. This is a key to the investigators because it means she probably fired the gun. That's why her ears were ringing. Also, this is the interrogation where she finally opens up about being sexually abused when she was 12 and somebody not believing her. At this point in this interrogation, when I saw it, I don't think that Vegas was using this as an excuse. I don't think that she was trying to just get sympathy by it. I think that she was trying to comprehend why this happened, and so she just mentioned something she never got to talk about. Next, she is on tape talking to police about how she has this other side of her. She says it's kind of like a superhero. She calls it Baby Bray. And Baby Bray protects her. But Baby Bray is really mean sometimes. And the officer asked her, "Are you saying that you have a second personality inside of you?" And Vegas said, "I was thinking another part of me did it. She did it. I mean, it had to have been her." To me, this is a woman that is just not in touch with her shadow. We all have this image of what we want to be and how we want to portray ourselves. But sometimes this shadow creeps out. It's our dark parts. It's our trauma. It's our unresolved trauma and our unresolved childhood pain. And it's almost like there's a little kid of you that was hurt at a certain age that sometimes comes online, and that little kid is running the ship. I believe that for Vegas, there was a very hurt child inside of her that randomly would just take over and control the ship. But she sees these as two different people. These are not two different people. This is you. These are all parts of you. And that younger version of yourself needs to be taken care of. And those bad traits that they show, they want you to listen, especially because a lot of times these little inner child versions of ourselves, they are screaming and doing bad things because they want the parent to listen. And bitch, you're the parent now. So if another version of you is stalking people, showing up at their house, sending them angry texts, threatening to kill them, then you need to do something with that inner child. This is not a split personality. It's you. To me, Vegas is fully responsible for this. And not only that, but the police go into her computer and they find some interesting things. A to-do list. And on the to-do list, it literally says, "Find Victor, kill Victor." And underneath that was her plan that lines up with what she told her brother, Santiago. Underneath it says that she was going to kill herself. She also had a memo written on her phone that said, "He was so full of shit and lies. I said I was because this dumbass no longer exists. Goodbye, Victor C. Saucedo, you stupid fucking ass bitch." That was like an actual note on her phone. There were multiple notes like this. Like she was sending him rage texts, but she was also writing rage notes on her phone. And all of these notes had dates on them that they were able to extract. A few days before the murder, on October 5th, Vegas also wrote a memo on her cell phone specifically saying that she was obsessed with killing Victor. She wrote that it was all she could think about. Obviously, this is all candy for the prosecution because the murder is premeditated. This is not a split thing. This is not just a crime of passion in the moment. It was a planned murder from a woman that would not stop stalking her ex because she wanted him to love her. I implore you, I implore everyone to seek love that loves you back, and not in a way that is just familiar to you, but in a way that makes you feel good and safe. That is not what either of them had. On October 16th, 2012, at 24 years old, Vegas Bray was taken in and charged with first-degree murder. Now, despite this confession and these notes, things were not looking too bad for Vegas in this trial. You know, they were setting her up to claim some type of mental illness. She actually did get a court diagnosis here. And it said that she had depression and PTSD. PTSD Nation that hasn't killed anybody, raise your hand. PTSD Nation that is working on it and trying to control things, like, we applaud you. I'm not taking depression and PTSD as an insanity plea. We're not doing that. We're not doing that, okay? But they dug into her a little bit. The media dug into her as well as her criminal defense attorneys. And it came up, you know, her only criminal record, she had a traffic violation in 2008. She had an arrest for theft in 2007 that she pled no contest to. No violent crime. Also, you know, when Vegas is in court, she once again has that kind of sweet demeanor. She can kind of sit there and wait, you know, hands crossed over, and she can speak kind of softly sometimes. And, you know, they are setting this up. Okay. And remember, Victor is 6'1" and Vegas is 5'2". They are about to drag this man in the trial. She pleads not guilty to the charges. If she's convicted of first, she might serve 50 to life in prison. And so they are setting up for her to be, you know, this innocent girl, probably say Victor was a bad guy. He was doing all this stuff. And, you know, she just couldn't take it anymore. I mean, that's exactly what they're going to say in the trial. Leading up to the trial, there was the arraignment, and the prosecutor actually said that this case was, quote, the ultimate act of obsession. So they're kind of laying their groundwork, but, we're not in the trial yet until July 2013. But despite this image that they have curated for her, Vegas starts to have strange outbursts in the courtroom. Now, you remember I said that she doesn't care who's around or what's going on when she gets triggered? Well, there was a moment in the courtroom that somebody said something that upset her, and she yelled, "I'm not going down for something I don't remember. I'm not going down for a murder that didn't even happen. I didn't know. I'm not doing this. I'm not going down for something I didn't do. And if people can't tell the story straight, then this is probably why I'm here in the first place." Like, she's screaming this and like freaking out in the courtroom. And then there's another instance where somebody takes the stand that was a friend of Victor and of Vegas, and they are getting questioned about Vegas's history of jealousy. And so this is one of the people that were like, oh yeah, she couldn't stand people looking at him. She couldn't stand when old flings texted him. She couldn't stand Dominique. And Vegas could not stand to listen to this. And remember, she's already had some courtroom outbursts before. We're on another day of the trial. And now while this witness is up on the stand, she gets so pissed and she stands up and she said, "I'm not jealous. I'm not fucking jealous. I was never jealous. I was never jealous of those hoes. I never cared. I never cared." One, yes, you were. And two, the jury is seeing all this. This is not lining up with what the defense had planned for her. Sweet girl that was battered by this guy. Like, the attorneys are like, "Please, Vegas, please, 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 just simmer down, sit down. Like, we got this." Nope. She can't control herself. Not even in the courtroom after she's murdered her ex-boyfriend. This girl is completely out of control. Also, reminder, guys, I do believe that she's super triggered. I do believe that she has PTSD. I mean, this is just so textbook, It is not our fault that something bad happened to us. But if the defense mechanisms that we create to get through that event start to hurt others and hurt ourselves, and it is obvious, it is now our responsibility to do something about it. I don't care if it's therapy, a self-help book, or just looking in the mirror and saying, "Damn, I shouldn't have sent that text. That was mean." We have a responsibility to take care of ourselves and the people we love. So yes, I do believe she was traumatized. I believe she was triggered, but fuck this. This is crazy. This is crazy. And you know who else was traumatized and triggered? Victor. Through all of this woman terrified him and then murdered him. Now, as the case became more public, there was a spotlight on the police negligence. The maternal grandmother of Victor's son, who was now 6 years old, she said the police didn't do a thing to help him. Now this child has to grow up without a father in his life. This is the saddest thing when you wake up in the morning and you have to tell him that his daddy is never going to be picking him up again. Another indicator that Victor was really scared was when he tried to file a restraining order and he was told that he didn't have enough evidence. Instead, he got a life insurance policy. That is one of the saddest things I've heard in a case. This is somebody basically accepting that no one will help them and they might die, so let me take care of the people around me. At the trial, a lot of people spoke about their memories with Victor. Some of these that I thought were very cute. His ex-fiance said that he was someone that always liked to make people feel special. He always did it big. He was a super romantic and he never missed a day. He was somebody that always remembered the anniversary. He remembered Mother's Day, anniversary, birth, all that stuff. Like Victor actually... Yo, y'all ever meet a guy that remembers the day and wants to get you flowers? Like, shit, I don't even want any flowers, but the bar is on the floor at this point, so I'll take it. I just think that's so sweet. His mom said that he was basically just like a big kid, except for the fact that his son was his entire world. All he cared about was his kid. And I mean, that's evident in that he was willing to take out a life insurance policy rather than just moving to Chicago to try to get away from her. Like, he was like, I'm going to stay. I'm going to be here with my kid. And if something happens, I'm going to take care of him. Oh my God, dude. So that original trial where she was having these outbursts, it was a competency trial. And guess what? They said, yeah, she's fit to stand trial. And so the real trial begins. Vegas's team tried to argue that she suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder and it caused her to be in an altered state of consciousness when she shot Victor. Shut the fuck This makes me so mad. I have been triggered so bad before that like the room is spinning. Like when you get super PTSD triggered, I know exactly what it's like. It's like everything is gray and it's like a heat map for like whatever you're fucking pissed about, okay? Like picture that. When she got super upset with Victor, it was like everything was gray and there was just this heat map on them and that's all she saw. That, you can fix that. You can fix that, and you know it's bad. I am not taking, she was in an altered state. Like, how many of us watching this video have severe fucking PTSD? No. Yeah, sorry. Where's my gavel? The PTSD community is rejecting this. Goodbye. And I know some of y'all are watching this right now like, but BOZE, how could you say that? If I was in an altered state and I killed somebody or hurt somebody while I was triggered, would you not forgive me? No, bitch. I would send you to jail too. Especially if you was watching my videos and I told you to go work on that shit a minute ago and now you in jail. You know what? Run a SINISTER on this bitch. Sorry, this just gets me so heated because it's just ridiculous to me. It makes me so mad. They argued that, yeah, she was in control of some actions like driving and getting from place to place, but they tried to say this was a rage state. Either way, the jury did not buy it. And on November 15th, a jury convicted Vegas Bray of first-degree murder. They said that she personally and intentionally intended to cause harm to Victor in order to kill him. Here's another little interesting tidbit about the case. It was very difficult for her attorneys to argue that this was self-defense in some form because the gun that Vegas used only held 6 bullets. That means that she shot him 6 times and then reloaded the gun and shot him again. Vegas committed this crime when she was only 24 years old. Now, at the time that I'm recording this video, she's 35 years old, and she still resides at the Central California Women's Facility. But Vegas Bray will be eligible for parole on October 2036 when she's 48 years old.